Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of the Girl Get Up podcast. As you all may know, if you're on my email list, I am technically on hiatus. However, work never stops to a certain degree. I thought it would be important just to continue during my hiatus to put out content because during these times of stress and work and life, we always need to stay inspired. Each podcast episode that I record, edit, distribute, upload for your viewing is designed to motivate, inspire, and educate each and every one of us, the viewers, because I view myself during those times of hustle and bustle, and you might get down and you might question whether you're fulfilling your purpose or not. And so I bring on my guests. They come on, they share their stories of inspiration and how they were able to break through barriers in their life. I also share my very same moments of breaking barriers, all in hopes, again, that you guys listen and you take notes, whether mental or you grab that pen and paper and you actually take some notes, because some of these majority of my guests really do be giving you the game. But I do that in hopes that that it inspires you, that it motivates you, that it lights a fire up under you, that it lights a passion within you. So with that, hang on for my next upcoming special episode with Dr. Nay. Take care. I see you on the other side.
Sweet, I'm so tired you treat me this way. And from you treat me this way. Sweet, I'm so tired you. Sweet, I'm so tired you treat me this way.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Girl Get Up podcast. I am your host, the Aquarian Chancellor, and this is the podcast where I share my stories. I bring my guests on, and they share their stories, all in hopes that inspires you, the listening audience, to go out and discover your infinite possibilities. Today, I have a guest. I am so excited for her to be here. Her name is Dr. Nay. Dr. Nay, please share with the audience who you are and what you do.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you so much, Miss C, for inviting me to speak with you this morning. I am Dr. Renee White. I go by Dr. Nay. And I will share with you, I guess I'll go backwards, okay? Because I have pivoted and have changed a bit of career paths. So right now, I am the founder and president of Renee's Way Incorporated, MWBE certified. I'm very proud of that. And I write poetry. I publish poetry in books. Also, I am now a signed spoken word music artist with Moontown Records. And it's all about women empowerment, embracing women, and for them to emancipate their voices, for them to become leaders in the women that they were meant to be. But prior to all of this creative energy, I have been in education for almost 40 years. I have been teaching at the college level for 30 years. And what I do is I specialize in cultural diversity and literacy leadership. So I teach teachers how to teach reading in the classroom. I teach them how to collaborate with other teachers and, how to take charge of educational programs and curriculum in schools and school districts.
Yeah. Was that a career choice that when you were younger, you always knew you were going to be a teacher? Or describe your journey into what inspired you to have a love for teaching others?
Actually, I always loved to teach. I was one of those little girls who had the chalkboard in the basement, right? Playing
Mhm.
school. When I was in like second grade, I would go lunchtime down to the kindergarten classrooms and read to the babies at that time. And I always had this love to teach. But when I graduated high school, everybody was saying, "Oh, well, you major in computer science, and you can get a great job with IBM." Okay, so that was back in the 80s. And so I went to NYU and I majored in computer science and math. It was computer programming, hated it. My eyes went bad with reading the programs, and a program wouldn't execute if you didn't have a semicolon in the right place, etc. Now, what is so interesting now, my youngest son is a cybersecurity specialist and he loves all of that stuff. They call it coding now. So
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
so I said to myself, money isn't everything. Let me go into what I love, and I changed my major to education. So I became a classroom teacher in the New York City public schools. I'm from New York, from Queens, New York, South Jamaica, and I later said I don't see myself in the classroom for 20, 30 years as some teachers, do. I said I wanted to have more of an administrative role. So I always had that knack as of a leader. So I
Mhm.
went to Brooklyn College and received my master's in reading and literacy leadership. And I did that and I moved to Virginia. I wanted to try something different. I have family from Virginia. And I worked as the reading specialist, the reading leader in Charlottesville schools. And then I said, it's pretty quiet down here compared to New York. So I said, well, while I'm down here, let me go to UVA and pursue my doctorate because I always wanted a doctorate, especially after I got into education. So I received my doctorate in leadership. And my plan was to become a superintendent
Mhm.
because I wanted to have impact on policymaking regarding all children in schools, but especially children of color. I wanted to have an impact because even with my doctoral degree, one of my collateral areas is cultural diversity, multicultural education, and also curriculum design. So I wanted to have more opportunity to, use that to influence school districts. But just like we were speaking earlier, we may have plans, but someone else may have plans for us. So when I started applying for jobs, I ended up getting a job as a college professor.
Okay.
And my first um, professorship was at Virginia Union University, the historical Black college in Richmond, Virginia. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful experience. I can't speak enough about that. But
Mhm.
I needed to come back to New York at that time. I had a son, and I moved back to New York, and I taught at Pace, and then I ended up eventually at St. Joseph's University, where I've been now for 28 years. Yeah, 28 years. It's so interesting how when you get older, you can remember things based upon things happening in your life. So my
Mhm.
youngest son was a newborn. And so yes, so he's 28. So it's 28 years ago I've been there. And I've been chair of the department and I have taken on some other administrative roles. So I still enjoy the leadership aspect. But when COVID hit, interestingly enough, and being home and I had some family issues I had to tend to, I took a leave from my chair from the department. And it's just amazing. Like the next night, poetry just started flowing through me. The entire poems. I would wake up in the middle of the night and it was taking dictation. Even now, I can read certain poems and I'm like, I wrote that? I don't remember
Mm,
because it just flowed through me. I've always been a writer, but being in academia, it was always, journal articles, research, book chapters, grants, proposals, all of that jazz. So for me to write poetry, I'm like, I'm writing poetry, but it all came together when eventually I said, God gave me these words for a reason.
mhm.
And I started to group them, and it was like, okay, it's time now to put it out there, to share and to make a difference. And so the first book actually I put together was the one for girls. I have, I guess I would say 4 books. So I have 2 for children. Sister Girl, Step Into Your Greatness, and Yo Bro, Strive Towards Excellence. And I got the boys book because my sons were like, well, what about the boys? What about the boys? So actually I use those books and I still go, actually I go to my former elementary school, which is wonderful. The children can't believe that I went to school there, but I
Okay.
also was a teacher there. So
Mm,
when I go back now, right now I'm in the process of fulfilling a contract with for parents. So I do parent workshops, and also I'm doing a professional development for the teachers. So yeah, so I have really a strong connection with the school in Queens. And then the other book that I wrote was Embrace Your Power, a Sister to Sister Conversation. And
mhm.
that's all about women realizing the power that they have within and for them to utilize it and focus on themselves. Because many times as women, we focus on everyone else. We want to make sure the kids are okay, the house is okay, the husband's okay, and we put our dreams and goals on hold. So I wanted to create this, similar to what you're doing, a sisterhood where women can support and embrace each other. But with the book, it's not just a book of poetry. I actually have reflective writing prompts with
Mhm.
questions for the readers to read the questions and to really think about, well, how can I connect? How is my life connected to this poem? And what can I do to make change to find my special place? What are my aspirations? What are the steps that I need to take, to start on that particular journey? So that book, yes, is for women, and I use it for leadership training, and I also use it, for parents and for teachers. But actually, my latest gig, well, not gig, but achievement that I'm very proud of was that I decided to release my book from the publishing company because all my books
Okay.
were published through a company. And I just published it through my company, Renee's Way Incorporated. So, yeah, so I was really so proud about that because I wanted to have full autonomy of
Mhm.
my book in regards to marketing, in regards to my royalties. And yeah, so that was like a, you know, boss lady move. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty proud. I'm very proud about publishing my books now through my company.
Yeah, that's exciting. You touched on so many things that, are all principles of my program and the reason why I do the podcast, because number one, I feel like there's more to us than just the 9 to 5, the mom. We all have these creative elements within us that if we don't express, we can go crazy sometimes. We could be a handful. So we have to do that inner work. But
Yeah.
before I get to my, I want to get to my first question,
Okay.
which will go back to the education piece.
Okay.
How how did you approach helping educators improve educational equality? Excuse me.
Well, through my teaching, it's something that is close to my heart. Growing up in South Jamaica, Queens, teaching in various areas where I saw, the issue of inequalities.
Mhm.
So, right. So, in all of the courses that I teach at the higher ed level, has some segment that
Mhm.
touches upon teachers becoming more aware of their behaviors, of their attitudes, that many of them may not even be conscious about. This one course that I created, actually I created it at Adelphi University, and then I went back to St. Joseph's when they had the graduate program started, and it's called Cultural Literacies. And I take the students through a journey, through a process for them to self-reflect as to what is their belief system.
Mhm.
Or, I share my experiences being a student in New York City schools. I share my experience being a Black mom of Black sons in schools. And they just look at me like, because it's not in their consciousness,
Right.
because the majority population of my students don't look like me, right?
Mhm.
But they're going to schools with children who look like me. So they
Right.
need to be, very aware and cognizant as to how their behaviors, their language, um, their treatment, impacts children. And I have some that start crying and say, "Oh, well, I lived in a bubble. I didn't know. I didn't know that saying this, was racist or harmful. Oh, I hope I haven't destroyed, a child's life. And I said, "No, it's not what you've done. It's all about now that you're more aware, now that you have more techniques, even just the idea of selecting books to be read in the classroom, you
Right.
really need to go through a process to see, are these books portraying stereotypes, biases, and some things. And I take them, we have a day that we spend on evaluating books. And they think the book is all wonderful and dandy, and oh, I like this book, it's cute, blah, 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 blah. But then I share with them an article and we have a conversation, and their minds are blown because they say, "Oh, I never thought about white privilege. I never thought about the white gaze. I never thought about, you know." So I said, even with that, you can make a small change as to which books that you're selecting for your library in your classroom.
Mhm.
And it's the idea of trying to share this information, making them leaders so they can share this information with other teachers in the classroom because many, I hate to say it, in teacher prep programs, they're not required to focus on, I say they are required to focus on diversity, but they don't really focus on diversity the way I feel it needs to be covered. And
Right.
that's why some years ago I was on a team with New York State, and I would go and review programs, teacher education programs across New York State. And I always selected standard 3 of the NCATE accreditation, and that was the diversity standard you know.
Okay.
So unfortunately, every school that I went to, I had to write up recommendations as to how they were providing that education to their students, because many times they don't have required courses. They say,
Mhm.
well, I'm not touching on it here and touching on it here, but it depends on the passion of the professor that they get. So even like when I teach literacy to my undergrads and I bring in the conversation about diversity, there may be another professor who's teaching the same course who may not go into it in such depth as I do, or
Mhm.
do not have the experiences that I have. And one thing that, I was very happy about was my books for children that I was able to get the undergraduate class and even my graduate class because I do have a project based around my books. So my books are required adopted text at the
Mhm.
college level to train teachers. So yeah, so I'm very happy about that. How the books are being used in so many different ways that can really benefit children in the classroom
I
and
love
at
to hear
home
that.
and at home.
I love to hear that. That's so inspiring to me to keep going and keep pushing. Yeah,
Yeah.
for my curriculum. I have a question for you though.
Mhm.
When you talk about the belief systems that sometimes we're not, when we're interacting with other people, we may not know that we're playing those things out in our daily conversations. What
Mhm.
what were some commonalities amongst your groups of undergrads and your students? Did you notice common belief systems amongst them all?
I would say a majority, most of them believe that change is needed and believe that, all children need, that equal educational opportunity. But there were some that said, oh, there's no such thing as racism anymore. I have some that were, you could tell, physically combative to the
Mhm.
conversations in the classroom. And and there's some just take a little more time than others, and some you just unfortunately can't reach, you know. But you don't give up on them. But with the conversations of the other, because I have them in small group
Mhm.
conversations, I show videos and we talk about that and case studies, and so I bring in a lot of different materials, based upon the multi modalities, and hopefully I'll get them a spark something
Yeah.
while they're with me. But but pretty much overall, um, most of them are open, at least to listen.
Yeah. I asked that question because before I started doing any of the social media stuff, I used to do a private accountability call. And one of our assignments that I had for the guests was to do a kind of like go back into think about all their life as a whole and
Hmm.
find five commonalities amongst their belief systems in love, education, um, religion, their
Hmm.
family structure, and find commonalities in their belief system. So a lot of the stuff that I found for myself was rooted from childhood. So those
Hmm.
childhood experiences that dictate, our thoughts and our belief systems today. So yes.
Exactly, because racism, prejudice, those are all learned behaviors.
Hmm.
So not only are we up against, training teachers and administrators in schools, but also the parents because the children go back to that home. Um, and unfortunately, many of the teachers are concerned about that because they're not tenured yet, So it's like, well, how can I bring this book in there? What uh what pushback am I going to get? So it really must focus on the administrators in the schools as well because they're the one in charge of leading the school and creating that climate and that atmosphere and supporting their teachers with the curriculum that is needed for positive change.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So coming up to the present day, how are you
Ooh,
balancing the creative side and the professional side? How are you balancing that?
I know. And yeah, so I guess my latest passion is the music.
Okay.
So I met Herb Middleton.
Okay.
He is the founder and president of Moontown Records and Publishing. And he is a multi-platinum Grammy nominated music producer.
Okay. So I'm gonna have
And
to look
it's
him up. I
and
never heard of
again, it's amazing how you're led to people who you're supposed to come across. He has produced for Mary J. Blige.
him.
He has
Okay.
worked with Usher. He has worked with Melba Moore. He has worked with um oh the Notorious Big, Faith
Mm,
Evans. I mean, he's been in the business. And and you think about how people who are like been like musicians all their lives are just trying to get into a room to meet someone like this, right? And to get or even to get a contract, it's like their dream. And this little old me, it's amazing how you meet one person and another person introduces you
yes.
to another person, and it gets you in the room. Because actually later today, I'm going to the African American Women in Cinema Film Festival.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was able to meet Tara Renee, who was the founder and president of AAWIM in media,
Okay.
in cinema, in cinema. And so yeah, so I'm excited to go to that this evening. But I went to this gala, and actually Herb was the recipient of an award because
Hmm.
I was there to sponsor and to share, my books, et cetera, with the audience and the attendees. And so Herb, and she's introducing Herb, and I'm like, oh shoot, listen to this. I'm in a room with, oh, wait a second. What? And then like
Okay.
my friends always say, oh, your poetry is like music.
Mhm.
And, and I've been rolling the idea in my mind. It was for a while as to how can I get music infused into my poetry. And the
Mhm.
man is, I'm like, he did what he worked with who? What?
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
So I was at a table, he was at a table, and big boss lady move, took my card and stuff and plopped myself right next to him. And I pitched to him what I wanted to do, how I was all into women empowerment and leadership. And he says, let's talk. And I think that was a Saturday night. I think Monday morning, I did my follow-up email. We had a conversation. I shared with him some of my poetry and knocked him off his feet. And we just released an album. We call it
Okay.
Spoken Fusion. It's spoken word, but we call it Spoken Fusion because it's the fusion of words with music. So it is like neo soul. There's some Afro beats. There's some jazz. There's some R&B love songs. So it's just totally amazing as to how we just collaborated and came up with and it's issues that need to be discussed amongst women, about loving yourself, appreciating who you are, taking time out for you. There's one about domestic violence, it's about even using your cookie power as a superpower. There's some love songs in there, because we all aim to find that one, because I am divorced and, it would be nice to have that very special, the right person this
The
time.
right person.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, yes, so we just released that. I had a music, I said movie, Freudian slip.
Up,
Um,
it's coming then.
It's
Okay.
coming. It's coming. That's another whole book that I want to write about my family and heritage and whatnot. So anyway, so yes, so I went into the studio, we collaborated. Yeah, and it's I love it. I absolutely love it because it's not just, entertaining people with music, but it's music with a purpose.
Mhm.
And that is, the premise of his record label. It's a humanitarian music label to make difference.
Yeah.
So we have a book tour going on.
Mhm.
I'll be going back I was just in Tampa last month for the book tour. We're flying to Georgia in July. And so yeah, so that's my new thing. But also, this one more thing to add on that I'm very
Sure.
happy about is that I'm in a movie.
Oh, see.
Actually, I'm flying to Atlanta week after next for another premiere of this movie. It's called Trial by Fire. And
Okay.
it was written and directed by Karen Broadway Wilson.
Okay.
And I don't have like speaking parts, but you can see I made the cuts. Okay. So the very
Okay.
beginning of the movie, I'm like saying over there and, so it was my first, time on the big screen. So I'm excited about that. So I just love, traveling and meeting people and speaking to people and just, making an impression, where I'm making a difference on their lives. So when it comes down to how do I manage it all, actually, I did take a leave from work
Okay.
because I wanted to have the time and the flexibility to travel and to do all these new because I don't know what is coming next, and I really don't care what's coming next. I'm just rolling with it. I'm loving it. I'm having a great time. I'm making, positive impact, and yeah. So I'm here with you.
Yes, I
Um,
appreciate it.
Yes, yes. So, so you never know. I just turned 60 a week or so ago. We all went 11, it's like 10 family members of mine. We went to the DR to celebrate that. And
Yes.
so even, with being now, three scores, as my dad would have said, now you're three scores. Um, it's never too late. You never know what is coming. You never know how the trajectory of your life is going to go. And I mean, I don't, I love teaching. I enjoy just the teaching, making, that impact and for people to be more conscious and aware of themselves and how they're being portrayed or perceived by others in the educational field, but now making this shift,
Yeah, I can
I'm just
see
I'm
when you
just
talk
all
about it,
giggles.
you just light up.
Oh, giggles.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And that is if you would want to make a transition, that is a transition to make. Yes.
Yeah, so I took the leap of faith and took the leave of absence, and
Right. And have open hands because you said you never know what's coming next.
exactly, and I'm open. I'm open to it. I'm not one of those scaredy cats. I'm like, all right, this is what we got to do. What I got to do, let's get it working. It's all good.
Right,
So
right.
you really have to have that openness. You have to have that positive perspective, that mindset, because you go into something like, oh, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And of course there are ups and downs, with everything. It's just the idea of how do you deal with it, and how do you manage it. Uh, and I always try to put a positive twist on things, because some things you
Yeah.
have to go through to get you to, the other, not the other side, but the other side,
Yeah.
or the next chapter of your life.
Yep. Yep. Because you walk in with a new knowledge that you did not have before, had you not went through that thing.
Exactly, exactly. Because that just reminded me of one of the tracks on the album. It's called Congratulations.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's all about divorce.
Okay.
Because I was having a conversation with Herb at the record at the studio, and I was telling him how I was going to have a divorce party, and he was like, "A divorce party?" I said, "Yeah, because it was an opening to a new
Mm,
chapter and of my life." And unfortunately, I've seen friends disappear because I don't know if
mhm.
they're embarrassed or ashamed or whatever. And my thing is, look at it as actually a blessing, where you can maybe now do things that you would not have been able to do. Maybe, you were, ridding your children of being exposed to a dysfunctional family and marriage. Because I realized that I'm like, I think I'm doing more harm than good because, oh, because kids, need their boys need their dads and blah, 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 blah. But
Yeah.
sometimes that's not always, the case. So they really have to look at how do I grow from this and how do I improve through this part of my life and how do I make it better for me, you know?
Yes.
So it's the idea of congratulations to your next chapter. Congratulations for fighting through it and doing what you needed to do to survive. You're a winner. You're a champion.
You have a book, which is the book that you're currently on tour with, and please correct me if I'm wrong at any point. Embrace Your Power book tour. That's the name of the book tour.
Well,
Your
actually, they
Sister
have.
Girls Step into Your Greatness is the book.
Okay, well, they changed it a little bit. The title is now, I think it's now the Literacy Code.
Okay, the literacy.
Because now with, a lot of stuff going on in the country, you have to be, yeah. So, with that, I used Embrace Your Power, Sister to Sister Conversation. But
Okay,
now I released that from the publishing company. So I'm rebranding it and it's now the title is Embrace Your Power,
okay,
um, a transformative journey of self-discovery.
okay,
Okay, so that one now is the new one on the market, and I'm still working on the ebook for that.
okay,
So that one I use with women. That one I have used for round tables with the book club because with the book club, with the book tour, um, they have round tables for women. One was about women, mothers who lost their children due to gun violence. So we did that round table. We're doing another one regarding domestic violence. So the tables are based upon women's issues. So I
okay,
use the Embrace Your Power for that. Also, I usually we also have performances by the artist of Moontown. So I performed Embrace Your Power. So my album is Embrace Your Power 1113. So we can talk
okay.
about 1113. 1113. And then for the other part of the book tour is promoting literacy
Hmm.
with children. So with that, I'm changing the name now instead of Sister Girls, is Dear Sister Girl, Step Into Your
Okay,
Greatness. And that actually is an Amazon bestseller. I'm very happy about
okay,
that. And then the one for boys is Yo Bro, Strive Towards Excellence. So I take both of the books because, mothers may have a son as well, and they want to have that for their child. And with that as well, it's not, just a book of poetry, but I incorporated my literacy principles into the book as well. So after each poem, I give students the opportunity to connect and reflect on the poetry based upon Rosenblatt. I won't get into literacy theorist and all that jazz. And then I also have graphic organizers for students to synthesize and analyze their thoughts of the poems within those particular chapters. And one thing that I really love about the text is that first I want children to love themselves because it's social emotional learning as well, right? So it's building
okay.
children's self-esteem, for them to realize who they are, for them to recognize the power within because it's all about empowering children. And also for them to think about, well, what are my aspirations? Because so many children do not think long term,
Mhm.
So even in fifth grade, when I go into my fifth grade classrooms, start thinking about what you want to become. What do you want to do? What is your passion? Because what you're doing now is having an impact. So, dream your biggest dreams and think about, well, what are the steps that I need to do even now to get to that point? And also, I like to focus on um, for them to realize that associations are important,
Mhm, mhm.
right? So we have a conversation about that in one of the sessions, where we have to be careful about the people who we hang around with and all of that. And also for them to understand what does it mean to be great? What does excellence mean? So I have a poem. The book's a parallel. So actually, the first chapter is, I call it gender specific. So I have poems for the girls and poems for the boys, but they focus on um, the same ideas. So
Mhm.
one for there's a poem for boys and one for the girls about what is greatness. So there I talk about how, our ancestors, did all this for us and marched and with fire hoses and etc. And then for the boys, I have, also being a stand-up man. What is the
Mhm.
epitome of being a real man. So, I talk about Obama and John Lewis and, and what does that mean so they can understand what is greatness. And then I also have in that chapter about respect, where girls need to respect themselves. And they need to do that early on and demand respect. And then I have a poem for the boys where you need to respect women. Calling them out of their name is not respect. Yes, chivalry isn't dead. We need to really teach that to them as to, that interaction. And then chapter two is about your culture. Because I'm very passionate about my heritage, my family tree. And I believe that, people need to know who they are for them to be be who they are and for them to impact others. And that's yeah, even in for example in my graduate class that I was talking about, where I asked my students years ago, 20 years ago, about their heritage, and they looked at me like, I'm American. They had no clue as to their heritage, and it really stumped me because I think in the African American culture, people tried to strip us of it, where we have to focus and teach our children that self pride. We
Mhm.
have to have those chitlins and pig feet for New Year's. So we really focus on heritage traditions. At least my family, we really
Yeah.
and I'm very big with that. So we talk about culture in chapter two and who are you and where you're from and who made you who you are. And then there's the chapter about social activism. Children
Okay.
need to understand that they are leaders. We don't want be in this. We're in this follower world, all the clicks, all
Yeah.
the likes, and all that jazz. But you want to be a leader. You want to be a role model for the younger children. You want to be a role model for others. You need to look at what are some of the issues going on. So I do have a poem in there about bullying. I have a poem in there about do Black Lives Matter. I have a poem in there about pretty much, what is leadership and what can you do to be a social activist? Because no matter how young children are, they can still be a social activist. And this goes back to James Banks. And I met him at a conference a couple of years ago, which was so
Okay.
cool. Like I idolize this man. He's like the father of multicultural education. And he was sitting right there. And I went to his table. And so it's all about children getting to that level four of social activism. So even if it's younger, and you want to be involved with what homelessness or poverty, they can bring in cans of food, they can bring in socks, they can, do whatever's age appropriate for that age and that grade. But it's the idea of how can we get children to realize what is happening in the world around them? They don't exist just in vacuums, and what can you do to have an impact on that, So
Yeah.
by me teaching all of this, I said years ago, I said, I'm a social activist, because
Yeah.
I look at my, the underlining tones of everything that I've done for the past 40 years is all about being an activist and improving the lives and the literacy and the knowledge and the training of teachers and leaders out there. So yeah,
If
so I'm a real
you
jerk maker.
if you look at your journey,
Mhm.
everything that you've done, what have you learned about yourself?
I have learned, that's a good question. I have learned that I am, I persevere.
Mm,
I don't let anything get in my way. Like my mom always told me, if there's a will, there's a way.
that's right. Yeah.
Um, that I've learned that I used to be always the quiet person, like in the room.
Mhm.
Um, and now I'm up on the stage and I'm like, no, don't take my mic.
Love it, right?
You never give up your mic. So that's something new that I have discovered about myself going through this new journey where I have now this confidence,
Mhm.
I have this power, how I have this energy because people always talk about my energy. So I
Mhm.
have this energy that nurtures, that encourages, that embraces people. And I just love that. I think that's what I am loving about what I'm doing, like with the music and the book tours and stuff. I'm meeting
Yeah.
just people who I never thought I would meet. I mean, I met a real Nigerian king and queen. I met the president of the Bahamas. I've met the president of St. Martin. I didn't know I was even talking to these people until I'm like, oh shoot. When they introduced them, I'm like, I was talking having breakfast with a king, and ambassadors. So it's yeah. So I'm learning now how to step up and to talk
Mm,
and to share my voice. And that's where all, when I say emancipation, and when I want women and children and all people to emancipate their voices, the freedom to speak their truth,
yeah.
for them to share who they are, for them to influence others, and for them to become the leaders that they were meant to be. Yeah, so I'm just embracing everything that is coming, and yeah, I'm like, oh, because I was driving the other day, and I says, oh, you know something? I'm
Edgar, no shame.
little old me, whatever, whatever, whatever. But yeah, it's just really interesting when people start to really listen as to what you're trying to do and what your purpose is and what your passion is, and for other people to connect with you, such as, connecting with you because we have a similar mission, and just to keep it moving and support each other.
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
Mhm.
This has been so fulfilling. Before I let you go,
Sure.
please share with the audience where they can learn more about the book tour, how to get your album, where they can get your books off Amazon, and how they can contact you on social media if they want to come bring you on and speak at one of their engagements.
Oh, sure, because that's what my aim is now to get more into the corporate level
Mhm.
regarding developing leaders and for women to realize that they can utilize their feminine energy, their feminine power um, uh, as an asset in their leadership positions. So yes, so that's what I'm planning on doing. So you can go onto my website, Dr. Nay Renee, DRNAYRENEE, one word, .com. And on there are links to purchase and download my album. Is digital. Also, my books, and there are links. You can buy them, and it'll send you to Amazon. You can buy them on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, wherever books are sold. But like I said, right now I'm transitioning because I know the Sister Girl book I think is sold out now. But the old publisher, so I'm still in the process of publishing it under my company.
Hmm.
Actually, Embrace Your Power is available, but you will have to put in Renee White. I'm in the process of changing that to put the Dr. Nay with my name. So when you search, it'll pop up with the other books. So it's on, like I said, Amazon, etc. If you want a signed copy or something like that, I can always sign it and mail it.
Okay.
And what else is there? The
The
album, the
spoken
book,
album.
right? And the spoken album, yes, there's a sampler on my website as well, so you can get a little taste of it ahead of time. And yeah, and then I'll be posting, my next appearances and where
Yeah,
I'll be.
book tour.
I'll be in Atlanta on June 7th for the movie, and then I'll be in Albany, Georgia on July 12th, I believe, for the book tour related to the record label. So
Okay.
that's what I have written in there right now.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. I'm going to go to the website
Yes,
and
yes,
encourage everyone else to do so as well. Do you have
yes.
any final
And
words for the audience?
excuse me?
Do you have any final words for the audience?
Well, also you can go on Moontown Records,
Okay.
ent.com, I believe it is. I'm listed there as well regarding being a artist, a signed artist. So there's information about that on there, and he'll be posting new videos coming out to promote the book and
Okay.
the album. So look for that. On social media is Dr. Nay Blog, DrNayBlog.
Okay.
On Facebook, no, on Instagram. And on Facebook is Dr. Nay Renee White. Bless you.
Thank you.
On Facebook. And then as you know, I'm on LinkedIn as well. And I think that's Dr. Nay Renee White as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so reach out. Also on my website is my email address.
Okay.
Yes, and you can join the mailing list. And also, if someone's interested in me speaking as well, there is an entry form, an inquiry, where I can connect and we can plan out the event because I speak at women's groups and I did one in St. Martin a couple of years ago. It was fabulous. So yeah, so I travel and yes, so everything is right there on my website, drnayrenee.com.
All right. Well, we're going to include everything in the show notes. For now, we will end the show, but we will see you next episode. Thank you, Dr. Nay, for being
Thank
here.
you so much. It was a pleasure.
Hi, guys. We'll see you next episode.
Bye. Thank
Thank you very
you.